Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a good week, and of course hope that we are all healthy and safe and continuing to obey the legal and health guidelines that we've been given. Before I start, I want to offer some words of nechama and consolation to our dear friend and member Matthew Pearlman, who unfortunately lost his father, Mr. Gerald Pearlman, this week, and in fact, as I'm recording this VaEra, in a few minutes the LeIlui will start. Now, I mention Matthew not just to offer words of condolence, but also because I want to dedicate this VaEra, this week's Derasha, LeIlui Nishmat, in memory of his father, because the thought I want to share is one I first heard from Matthew several years ago. When I was going through my notes on the Parshat, I found noted down a VaEra that Matthew had shared with me. I can't remember exactly when, and he told it to me in the name of Moshe Lichtenstein, and it's such a beautiful and eye-opening idea that I wanted to share it with the community this week as my VaEra on this week's Sedra. And the thought opens up with a question about the structure of this week's Sedra, VaEira, and next week's Sedra, Bo. Because divided between the two Sedras are the 10 plagues, split 7 this week and 3 next week. But it's not entirely clear why the Sedras are split in this way. Why should the plagues be divided? Why couldn't all 10 be in one Sedra? And if they are going to be split, why is the choice of the first 7 in contrast to the final 3? This isn't one of the more familiar divisions in the plagues. There are other more obvious ways of dividing the plagues. For example, famously, Rabbi Huda's statement in Haggadah, Tzach Adash Ba'achav. So why this split of 7 and 3? More profoundly, perhaps, why actually do we need 10 plagues at all? I mean, why didn't Moshe Hashem just go straight to Makas Bechoros, to the smiting of the firstborns, which after all was the final plague that brought about the exodus and release of the Jewish people? In fact, if we look right back to the beginning of Moshe's mission, Hashem sort of said this to him. V'amartel Paro, said Hashem, you should say to Paro, this is the message, Koma Hashem, so says God, B'ni B'chori Yisrael, Israel is my firstborn child. Therefore, Shalach Esami V'yavduni, release the Jewish people. V'tomai Neshalcha, but if you refuse to send them, Hinei Anochi, Horeg Espincha B'charecha. The result will be, the consequence, the punishment, that I will kill your firstborns. In other words, right at the beginning of the story, Hashem already tells Moshe that it will be Makas Bechoros, the smiting the firstborns, that release the Jewish people. So why go through the whole of the 10 plagues? And the answer to this question is to understand that actually there's a double battle going on over here. Because whilst initially the message to Paro was simply to release the Jewish people, to grant them national independence as is appropriate and morally correct, Paro's response ups the ante and takes the fight to another level. Because what does Paro respond? How does he answer? Vayomer Paro, says Paro, Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolo. I don't recognize Hashem Atzul, l'shalech es Yisrael, lo yadati es Hashem. I don't know who he is, and I don't know why I should recognize his voice, his authority in my life whatsoever. Now this is no longer just a battle over releasing the Jewish people. Now this is a heretical challenge to Hashem and his authority completely. And this is the division between the two Sedras. Because the story of Parshat VaEira, the first 7 plagues, is now Hashem's response to the theological challenge. And it's only in Bo that it gets back to the final 3 plagues, which reverts to the original mission, which was the release of the Jewish people. And look how beautifully and profoundly this reads in the Sedra. Because in VaEira we're repeatedly told that the purpose of the Makkos is V'yodu Mitzrayim ki ani Hashem. I'm sending the plagues so that the Egyptians, Paro, should recognize God in their lives. All humans need to recognize the transcendent and the authority of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the obedience that calls. And the repeated demand in VaEira is not the permanent liberation of the Jewish people. This isn't the national battle, but that they should go for 3 days v'yavduni, so that they can leave to the desert for 3 days and serve me. Because Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people and all humans, need to have Hashem in their lives. In contrast, in Parshas Bo, now the message is the final release and exodus of the Jewish people. Interestingly, in VaEira, those who defy Moshe are the Chatzumim, the magicians, the pagan leaders of Egypt's idolatrous culture who are in denial of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in Bo, when it's the political battle, it's the advisors of Paro who Moshe confronts, the politicians, the diplomats, who are coming to defend Egypt's national interest. Indeed, we see the plagues themselves are divided, because whilst in VaEira they're very painful, it's in Bo that they really threaten life and the possible survival of Egypt. In VaEira, they're about Hashem's power. In Bo, they're about life and death of Egypt individually and as a nation. The locusts, threatening the possibility of harvest and eating. Darkness, choshech, causing the cessation of any functioning. And finally, of course, makas b'choros. Now, by the end of VaEira, the theological battle is won. Paro responds, Vayishlach Paro, Vayikol Moshe Aaron, Vayom Aleim Chatosi Hapam. I've sinned. Hashem HaTzadik, Va'ani Va'ami HaRashoim. I recognize God's authority. I recognize He's in charge. I'm no longer heretically defying Him, but now Parshat's bow start. I don't want to let the Jewish people go because there's a national challenge over here. And this is the very beautiful insight that I wanted to share about the split between the Sedras and the beautiful and nuanced and deep reading in the Parsha, which demonstrates two battles going on and offers us understanding into why Chazal, the sages, split the Sedras in these way, 7-3, to indicate through the split so doing that there's a double story happening. Finally, the two Haftarahs also indicate this divide. The Haftarah on Parshas VaEira deals with the theological challenge of Paro. It's from the Novi Yecheskel describing Paro, the Tanin Hagodol, the great crocodile, the Tanin, the serpent god of the Egyptians, Paro presenting himself as the god, defying Paro, and as the Haftarah carries on, being taught by Hashem to recognize his power. In contrast, the Haftarah Bo, this is about politics. It describes the national battle between Nebuchadnezzar, Bavel, and Egypt, describing the nationalistic element, not the Tanin, but the calf, the economy of Egypt, and the nationalistic battle, which is the theme of Bo. So this is the double layer of the two Sedras, a very beautiful insight. I wish everyone Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and may we all be well.